careful. Now, she must be very careful. Just one drop of the captured sunlight on the rock salt would set off quite the explosion. Savannah held her breath as she leaned carefully over her work table, holding her arm steady with her other hand, muscles tense. Just a few more inches, and she'd be able to insert the captured sunlight liquid into the mixture. Just a drop. Just one. The sudden noise and the absolute stillness of her workroom sounded like a war drum going off. She started, the vial in her hand twitching at just the wrong moment, and a drop landed, exactly where it should not have. Savannah had just enough time to dive for the floor before the liquid dissolved into the salt and set off a spectacular explosion that set fire to everything within reach. "I can't lay on the floor," she realized in panic, and rolled back to her feet. If that fire reached certain areas of the room, areas that held volatile and flammable things, then the whole room would go up like a volcanic eruption. Savannah scrambled towards the first tool that she could reach. It wasn't a water or fire-reducing wonder she wanted, but a stasis crystal. Close enough to do the job. She snatched it off the table and quickly commanded, "Zod Nefole!" Everything in the room, including the flames that had been licking their way across her work table, froze. Breathing hard, she looked around to see what damage had been done. The bookshelves lining either end of the room hadn't been touched, so her reference books were safe. This was a fortunate thing, for whoever it was knocking on her door, it meant they could live to see tomorrow. But the rest of the room? Ash. Her long wooden work table was scorched all along one end. She'd likely have to replace the whole thing. Everything on top of it was melted. Not one flask, wand, or ingredient was still usable. The stone grinders were questionable, covered in soot as they were. Even the workbench along the back wall was a little scorched along the edges. She couldn't claim to be in better shape either. Despite having dove to the floor, some of the flames had still reached her. She could taste soot in her mouth, so her face likely had smears of it. The back of her hand certainly did. When she looked down at herself, she noted in disapproval that her white shirt looked gray, and the buckskin pants she wore were streaked with black. For that matter, she sniffed the air around her. Could that be? Yes, it was. The smell of melted hair. Even her hair had been burned. "I take it back. Whoever that is has to die." Savannah released the crystal, letting it hover in midair, and spun for the door. Big must have sensed her mood as he rearranged the tunnels for her with a low, grating noise so that she had direct access to the main door. Whoever had come knocking, aside from having a short life expectancy, must have been a friend to get this far without Big stopping them. Friend or foe, it didn't matter. They still needed to be killed. She reached the door, grabbed the wooden latch, and yanked it open. Her visitor held his hand raised, as if poised to knock again. At the murderous look on her face, he cautiously backed up a pace, eyes taking her in from head to toe. Did I catch you at a bad time, Sev?"